What's going on, squad? This is Kito Delgado, your athletic scholarship and college recruitment coach. And got a great episode of Full Ride powered by You Recruit You coming up for you. On this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about AAU basketball, right? Want to really outline some things you should really consider as a family prior to selecting that team, because AAU is a great opportunity for you to get some exposure. But here's the thing, not all AAU teams are the same. So you really want to make sure you do your homework and you join the right squad so you can then go to the right tournaments and get in front of all those coaches. So hang tight. I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to subscribe. I don't know where it is, but subscribe here on YouTube if you like, if it's helpful to you in any way. Also, should be a good teammate. Give us that assist. Share it with your family, with your friends, with some other fellow athletes who may be going through the same situation as yourselves. But then also you can listen to the audio version of Full Ride. Just check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and tune in. But we're going to get started, and let's get after it. All right, let me hit the record button. Make sure all systems go. All right, let's get it. Welcome back, squad. College recruitment starts with you. What steps are you taking today to earn an athletic scholarship tomorrow? This is your college recruiting and athletic scholarship coach, Kito Delgado, and I'm so glad you've tuned in for another episode of Full Ride, powered by You Recruit You. And today we're going to be tackling over the next 13 to 15 minutes AAU basketball. But I think we can also apply a lot of what we're going to be talking about to really any travel team that you or club team that you are a part of. So even though we're going to be talking and saying AAU, if you play travel softball, travel soccer, if you do, volleyball, doesn't really matter the sport, because for the most part, all of you play on travel teams. So you can apply AAU. It's all interchangeable, okay? But before we get to that, I just wanted to remind you guys, let's get social, let's get connected. Give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. Just follow us at YouRecruitYou. And then you can also tune in to our and like our Facebook page. And you really want to check out our Facebook page. Give that page a like and tune in every single Monday, because every Monday we go live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we really want to equip you with some knowledge. So this past Monday, we talked about the different recruiting periods, the quiet period, the dead period, the evaluation period, and the contact period. And it's important for you as a family to know all of those different periods, because it's going to really help you govern, when you go on unofficial visits, when you reach out to coaches. And it's just, you really want to check that out. So head on over to Facebook, like our You Recruit You page, and then check out our most recent study hall and learn more about the recruiting calendar and the different recruiting periods. But today, AAU basketball, I think it's really important to really touch on this, because AAU is a great opportunity as a family for you to gain exposure to college coaches. Quite frankly, one of the big myths out there is that families believe that just because you're dropping 30 points a game, 20 points a game at the high school games, at the high school level, that college coaches are going to be, going to all of your games. That's how they're going to discover you. But the reality is they're in their seasons during that time. They got their teams, they got games, they got practice, they got travel. They got a lot going on. So it's really hard for them once the basketball season starts at the high school level for them to recruit. Yes, or I should say to discover talent. Yes, they will recruit you. So they already have their list of targets, and now they're texting them, they're emailing them, they're sending them direct messages on Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. So they are communicating with the athletes. But as far as discovering new talent, it's really difficult for them to do that. So when they discover top talent, typically occurs through AAU, because what they're able to do during certain periods throughout the year, and I'm going to talk about this, it's called the live period. They are able to, there's 2 weeks in April, and then there's 3 weeks right now in July. And that's when there are a number of NCAA sanctioned tournaments. And all you families, I don't have to explain this too much because you've been there already. You're probably sitting in the gym right now listening to this. But that's where during those 5 weeks, college coaches are able to evaluate players in person. So those are live periods. And I really wanted to touch on this before we even get started. It's important, if you are a family who was on an AAU team, you want to understand one thing. At the end of the day, your number one mission for playing AAU, in my opinion, I mean, if you're going to spend the money on the sneakers, on the shorts, on the sneakers, on the hotels, on the airfare, if you're flying, on the hotels, the time you're going to spend practicing, the time spent traveling, right? If you're going to be making all these sacrifices, at the end of the day, you want to do so, hopefully, because you want to gain exposure, you want to earn an athletic scholarship. Here's the thing, if you are playing AAU on a team that does not participate in NCAA sanctioned games, you're wasting your time. I'm going to be very honest with you guys. You're wasting your time. So it's really important. First tip, before we even get off too far into this, when picking an AAU team, you must ask your coach, do you participate in NCAA sanctioned games or tournaments? Excuse me. That's the question number one. Write that down. You should be asking every AAU coach. Do you play in NCAA sanctioned tournaments? And just so you know, if you really want to be smart and prepare yourself, what you should really focus on is making sure they play these tournaments in April and in July. If they say, oh yeah, we play in these tournaments, and then they show you their schedule and none of the tournaments are in April or none of the tournaments are in July, or they show you the schedule and then some of the terms that they are playing during those months, if they're not NCAA sanctioned, guess what? You're wasting your time playing on that team, because here's the thing. All the college coaches are going to be at the NCAA sanctioned tournaments. So if you want to get exposure, why would you ever play on a team that doesn't play in front of college coaches? So that's a thought. That's the first thing I really want to recommend you guys do. Number two, in addition to that, I just mentioned the coach. You gotta evaluate the coach. Coaching matters, particularly at the AAU level, because they like this level of credibility that you really want to see in a coach. Are they credible? Are they someone who just started a team just because they want to get their son or their daughter all this playing time? They want to get them exposure, and it's all about their kid and not the team, right? That's just one example. But like, what type of credentials does your coach have? What type of relationships do they have, right? With college coaches, because maybe they can lean on those relationships to help you get some exposure. So you really want to evaluate the coach. Not saying they had to play college basketball or any sport. Not saying they had to be a former pro. For me, it's just about measure their intention, measure their credibility, look at their track record, right? You really want to focus on the coach, and then of course, focus on the team, where they play, when they play, but then you really want to evaluate that coach, right? One thing you also really want to pay attention to now, I'm not doing any of these in any real order. I'm just kind of, I want to say freestyling. But one thing I definitely want to make sure you guys understand that there is a cost to playing AAU basketball. I just kind of touched on it a little bit, but travel, it's legit. I mean, if you're in upstate New York, where I'm located, a lot of tournaments. I mean, there was a tournament just now in Las Vegas. There was the Peach tournament. I think that was in Chicago. Then you got ones in Atlanta. I mean, they're everywhere. So there's a good chance that you're going to be doing some flying, right? There's a good chance, even if it's local, you're going to have to commute. There's definitely a good chance, unless it's right in your backyard, you're going to be staying in hotels. And parents, many of you travel with your athletes because you want to check out the action. Makes sense. But here's the thing, you have to pay too. So nothing's free at the end of the day. And yes, there are some teams that are fortunate. They get sponsored by Nike, Under Armour, Adidas. That's great. But I say all this to prepare you, right? You got to prepare yourself. How much is it going to cost? That has to be a question that you are asking, right? You have to figure out what's the buy-in here. Okay, I'm gonna spend $3,000, whatever it is, right? I'm gonna spend $3,000, $2,000 to play in these. Once I cut you this check for whatever it is, does that mean everything is covered, or is I'm paying X amount of money just to be on a team, and then I got all the extra tournament fees and the hotel fees and the airfare, right? If it's me, I'd much rather know going in what my expenses are, and quite frankly, I know everyone's different, but I would love to be able to just just know, okay, cut us a check for X, I write that check, and then I know it's all covered for the rest of the way. So that is definitely a question you should be considering when selecting an AAU team. Then you want to focus on schedule, right? Yes, playing games is a big part of AAU, playing in tournaments. But here's the reality about AAU, and I don't want to get too sidetracked, but a lot of times the elite AAU teams, they have players from from like 2-3 hours away from each other. Like we have an elite team here where they have a couple of players that are from Syracuse, a couple of players from Rochester, some players in Albany, a couple of players in Buffalo. So they could probably only practice once a month, maybe twice a month, and the rest of the time they play games. But now if you're more of a complete local team, well, that coach may decide that they want to practice weekly, right? So another question you definitely want to ask the coach is, what's the time commitment, right? How many practices are we going to be able to have, or are you expecting me to participate in? Where are the practices? That's a great question, right? If the practice is an hour and a half away once a week, so an hour there, hour back, 2 hours of travel time, plus 2 hours, 3 hours of practice. Are you ready to commit to that process? But then speaking of practice, and then earlier I was talking about the coaches, perhaps you want to definitely talk about, high level, but, what types of practices are they running, right? Maybe you want to go evaluate the coach, look at how they run practice. And again, that's going to actually help you determine how credible they are. Is it more skill development in practices, or are they just rolling the ball out and doing nothing but scrimmaging? Does the coach, teach in practices, or do the players just kind of basically have an open gym? Evaluate the other players on the team, right? Are they talented, or are they not good? Because here's the thing about these tournaments. The further along you go in the tournaments, the better the competition is, the more eyes are at center court. When I say eyes, I mean college coaches. Well, if your team's getting around the gym every single time, you may not want to be on that AAU team. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you, family, but I'm just trying to pack a lot of content in a very short period of time, because I truly believe AAU, I truly believe travel is a great way. It needs to be in your toolkit, right? You have to, simply playing for your high school team ain't gonna cut it. Just keeping it honest with you. That's not gonna cut it. So you really wanna make sure that you align yourself with a good AAU team, a good travel team, good coaching that's aligned with your belief system. They put you in the right situations, in front of the right coaches, that fits your budget, that allows you to get to the practices when they have them. These are all things you want to consider. So that's that. And one thing I also want to talk about before though we even get to the AAU, right? And I don't want to get on my soapbox here, but I tell families this all the time. I work with a lot of families, guys, and we have families with children that are 8, 9, 10 years old, okay? And many of them are enrolling their children in AAU basketball. They're enrolling them in travel. They're doing all this, going all over the place. And now, yes, you read about some kids getting scholarships in the 6th grade, 7th grade. It happens, right? Those are the elite of the elite players. Those are like the 1 of the 1%. The reality is this though. Most of you are not in that position in the 5th, 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade. Heck, some of you not even the 9th grade. And, you know, one thing just to kind of draw a parallel here in business, right? Let's say you're an entrepreneur. If you were an entrepreneur, right, you wouldn't start promoting your business, right? You want to start promoting your services until you are in a position to deliver those services, correct? Right? Because you could promote, and then if somebody would have called up and said, okay, yeah, I want to buy X, or I want to use your services, but you weren't ready to deliver it, what would happen? That would be a terrible experience for that user, right? Well, I want you to apply that now to you as a family putting your child in AAU basketball, or you as a family trying to gain exposure to a college coach before you are ready, right? Just like business owners, many business owners, they are in search for exposure. They're in search of eyeballs for their business, but then when it comes time to execute their business, they don't have the systems in place to execute. And then they may have gotten that immediate attention, but long term, they suffer. And now, athletes, you guys may not be able to follow me right now, but I know for a fact I have a few entrepreneurs. I have some business owners. I have some CEOs that I'll listen to that's like, yeah, I can relate to that, right? So you're with me right now. So the same thing applies when it comes to travel, sports, and joining AAU teams. Don't be in such a rush to play in all these travel teams, to make this investment in money and time at the expense of developing your skill. Because here's the thing, if you show up to these tournaments as a 10th grader, as a 9th grader, and you're not strong, you're not athletic, your jump shot's off, you can't play D, or you're sitting the bench, the end of the bench, even worse of your AAU team, it does you no good. So families, this is a quick tip, and then I'm going to get to the winning play too. I got you. I didn't forget about that. Here's my tip though. Before you get in such a rush to join these teams, I really want you to give thought to really making sure before you seek exposure, you develop your skill. Right? Develop your skill. I promise you, for as many of these 1% of the 1%ers, there are way more athletes who were discovered in the 11th grade, in the 12th grade. And you hear stories all the time. I just watched the ESPYs, and Donovan Mitchell just got an award for breakthrough athlete. I think he had one scholarship offer out of high school. So you see it all the time, right? It only takes one school that you want to get you that scholarship. So don't be such a rush to spend all this money trying to be on these AAU teams and these travel teams until you are ready. So families, really give pause before you go chasing these travel teams. Instead, maybe get a personal trainer. Instead, stay home and just work on your game. Because here's the thing, you traveling all these tournaments, these AAU games, don't make the mistake of thinking playing in games, let's say each game, you get 15 minutes of playing time. Think about that. Each game, you get about 15 minutes of playing time. Let's call it, for easy math, 20 minutes. And you play for the weekend, 6 games. Do the math. How many hours of real basketball are you playing during that time? So are you really getting better? In some cases, no. You take that same amount of time and you can times that by 2, times that by 3, because now you're not traveling, and you could actually get some real practice time in. Again, if you're a sophomore, you're a junior, get your butt on the AAU team. I'm talking about my 7th grade kids, my 8th graders, my 6th graders. Work on your game. Make your game real strong. Then pursue the AAU team. So that's that tip. Second, as far as this week's winning play, right? Winning play, here we go. Ready? So I don't know about you guys, but I've been to a few AAU games, and they got about 10 courts going on at once. And here's the reality. Most basketball teams maybe has between 4 to 6 coaches on staff. And now you got 10 games going on, just that one tournament, right? Now keep in mind, there are a half dozen tournaments going on at once throughout the country. So each team may send 1, maybe 2 coaches to a tournament. You got 10 courts. They can't possibly see every single game, every single player. So here's a tip. You ready? Here's the winning play. You got 1 more, maybe 2 more weeks of the summer for these tournaments. Do this. You're going to thank me for it. Mom, dad, especially if you travel, get yourself a tripod. Get yourself a camera. Hopefully, I prefer a good camera, but worst case, a cell phone. And record the games. Record the games. You got all this action, all this game action going on of your child, your son, your daughter playing. That is golden opportunity for you to record a full live game, get a couple of those, and then you can eventually splice it up for a few highlights. But you can use all these tournaments, all these games that you guys are playing in this summer, you should be recording them. Here's a quick tip though, just hit the mute button, okay? Hit the mute button, because I know college coaches, they don't want to hear, your play-by-play. So hit the mute button, but seriously, tripod, camera, and record all the action from the games. That's your winning play. I promise you do that. And then a couple months later, you can reach out to the coach. You can show them some action. That's a great winning play for you. I hope that's helpful. Don't forget, again, subscribe to the podcast, Full Ride Powered by You Recruit You. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Stitcher, Spotify, and TuneIn. And don't forget, get social with us. Let's get social. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. You Recruit You. But until next time, this is your athletic scholarship and college recruitment coach, Kito Delgado, reminding you that college recruitment starts with you. What steps today, right now, what steps are you taking today to earn an athletic scholarship tomorrow? Go compete.